Alright, hi guys. Welcome to your first NTI lesson for Algebra 1. So we're going to start talking about exponents and solving expressions with exponents and stuff. So this week we're just starting with zero as an exponent and negative exponents. We're not doing anything past that. So the nice thing about this is that zero as an exponent is actually pretty simple. So it's just a basic rule that you can always follow. It doesn't really matter what you have. It could be a variable, it could be a number, but anything that you have to the zero power is going to equal 1. The reason why this is true, so let's take a look and just think about exponents for a second. If you have like 2, it's the same as 2 to the first power. That's just going to be 2. Well, if you have 2 squared, that means that you're going to take 2 times 2, which is going to be 4. And so as you go up, you're just multiplying by 2 every time. So 2 to the third is going to be 8. So since when you increase exponents, you multiply by the base every time. So when you go the opposite way, if you're going down by exponents, you're dividing by 2. So 2 to the 0 power is going to be 2 divided by 2, which is just 1. And then that kind of brings us into negative exponents too. So as you continue to go down, let's decrease by another and say we have 2 to the negative 1. Well, I would divide by 2 again, and I'm going to end up with 1/2. And then if I did that again, to the negative 2. If you do 1/2 divided by 2, you'd end up with 1/4. And 1/4 divided by 2 is 1/8. So one thing you can kind of see here is that the negative versions are basically the same as the positive, just flipped over. So with negative, I always tell people to think of it as a flip. So no matter what you have, if you have a to the negative 2, that's going to be the same thing as 1 over a squared. One of the reasons that's important is that because if you do have variables in your expression, you want to get rid of negative exponents. You want to make them be positive by flipping them. Then if you have something like 5 to the negative 2, well, that's going to be the same thing as 1 over 5 squared. And 5 squared is just 25. So you can do exponents that way too. So I have some examples for you. The 0 ones are really easy because it does not matter what the base is. The answer is always 1. All of these, except that should be like that. All of those, whether it's a fraction, if it's a negative number, it should be in parentheses. So that was my bad. But any base, if raised to the 0 power, is going to be 1. And then when you have numbers like these, if you have 9 to the negative 2, what you're going to do is you're going to flip it over and make it positive, and then just square the 9. If you have 3 to the negative 1, well, you're going to flip it over, and then 3 to the 1 power is just 1/3. And then same thing here. If you have 2 to the negative 3, it's 1 over 2 cubed. 2 cubed is 2 times 2 times 2, so that's going to be 8. So hopefully this isn't too tricky for you. I know it's kind of weird to get used to. Then when you have expressions with variables, the only thing you got to be careful of is just make sure that you know that the negative exponent, it only applies to what it's actually touching. So for this one, the 5 and the A are going to stay where they are, but that B is going to flip to the bottom, and then you're done. That's all you got to do, okay? For this one, since the x is already on the bottom of the exponent, it's just going to flip back to the top. So it'll just become regular x to the 5th. So if it's on the bottom of a fraction, just flip it back up as if it were a normal non-fraction number. Then the last one, be careful. A lot of times, especially when it's just a number, people really want to keep that 4C attached, but the 4 is going to stay where it is, the B is going to stay where it is, and you're just going to move that C to the bottom. So that's basically what we're working on this week. I know that it's hard for me to tell if I'm going too fast when I'm not in front of you guys because, it's hard to tell. So if you need to pause video, rewind, please do so. So I was going to do a couple of the problems with you from your work. Now, you guys are only doing the even numbered problems. So you're doing like 2, 4, 6, 8. Okay, 8's not on here. But 10, 12, 14. So you don't have to do all the odd ones, okay? So I didn't want to do all of the even ones for you since this section's kind of short. So just with this first one, you're just going to change it, and it's going to turn into 1 over 2 to the 5th. Now, if you have trouble with exponents, I always just can't show you because I'm using my fingers, but just count how many times you multiply by 2. So 2 is the first one. Then times 2 is 4, times 2 is 8, times 2 is 16, times 2 is 32. So over 32. And then for number number 3, the 5s squared will stay on top, and then the t will just go to the bottom. Okay. For this, it is actually having you plug stuff in. So this one might be a little bit of a challenge for some people, but hopefully not. Just know that when you're doing this, make sure that the negative 4 stays in parentheses. I'm going to make my pen a little smaller. Okay. So I'm going to flip the 4 to the bottom so that it becomes positive. So 2 to the 3rd power is 2, times 2 is 4, times 2 is 8. And then that negative 4 to the 1 power is just 4, and 8 divided by negative 4 is negative 2. So that pretty much covers it. Most of these, like I said, I don't think you should have a problem with them. Hopefully not. If you do, there are 2 options. You can show up to whenever 5th period is scheduled to have our Google Meet meeting. Ask me questions then. Or you can email me and I will get back to you for sure during my business hours, if not sooner. So I know it's very different having to do all this stuff online, and I'm sorry that I'm not going to be able to help you all individually. I wish I could be there with you guys to help you out, but I'll do everything I can from a distance. So just keep in touch. Good luck, and I will talk to you later.